Namaste. I have a confession to make, and I hope you'll forgive me. Sometimes people ask me, how were you able to get through so many different forms of spirituality and actually get the result, the realization based on it? And then go on to another one and another one and another one and master them all in one lifetime. I'll give you an example that you can verify from the channel here. For 3.5 years, I was an ordained Buddhist monk, and I lived in a monastery up in the mountains in Sri Lanka. And in that time, in 3 years, I went through the entire Tripitaka, meaning the Buddhist scriptures, Theravada Buddhist scriptures. And a lot of people have said, well, how could you do that? How could you go through so much material and actually practice and realize it all? Well, it took me a little longer to realize it. It took me another year or two. But still, within a very short time, like 5 years, I had mastered the Buddha's teaching. And it involved throwing out a lot of superfluous cruft that had accumulated over the centuries, mainly due to the meddling of unrealized monks. So what I have is actually two things. Matrix learning. Okay, that covers the theory part, the verbal part, the conceptual, the ideal or ideation of the path. And then there's another form of yoga, which I've kept secret all these years, which enabled me to have the energy to practice these at an expert level as soon as I understood them. And that is called Shibari-yoga, or I like to call it Nārasingha-yoga, because it was inspired by Nārasingha, my deity, my Ishtadevata, and because it involves his mood and his pastimes and activities. And that's a long story. The whole thing is a big, long story, which I'm going to say something about in this series. I'm not quite sure how much I'm going to say. It depends on several factors, and we'll see how that all resolves. A lot of it depends on your feedback. Now, I'm not going to teach Shibari. Just like when I'm talking about tantric methods, I don't get on here and teach Tantra. There are plenty of other people doing that. There's no need. Just like to teach Hatha Yoga, there's no need. There's like hundreds or thousands of people teaching Hatha Yoga online and in person in every conceivable different style and flavor. And similarly, Tantra. But what I'm doing is Shibari-yoga. Shibari as a form of yoga. Because Shibari, the practice, originally came from Zen. You know, what do you do? I can imagine back in the old days, in some monastery in Japan, the master getting frustrated with these young disciples who just won't sit still. And in Japan, there is a tradition that a superior person, like a husband or a teacher, can physically discipline or even bind the wife or student or employee or soldier, if it's in the army, and administer physical discipline. And this is part of just the natural relationship in ancient Japanese society. And the same was true in ancient India. And actually the earliest mention of anything close to Shibari or Shibari-yoga was in the good old Vyatsana Kama Sutra. The sage wrote, toward the 44th chapter, I think it was, toward the end, about the prince tying his consort with silken ropes and having his way with her. And there's only a short mention of it. But of course, given all the other material in Kama Sutra, you can imagine they must have been using some kind of mechanical assistance to attain these postures. And the same is true if you look at some of the Hatha Yoga asanas. Like, how the heck are they maintaining them? Only very, very few very athletic people can do it without assistance. But if you have an assistant, either a physical device or a person, to help you get in and maintain the position, you could stay in these yoga asanas basically indefinitely. And as it turns out, my experiments showed me that if you stay in a yoga posture more than, say, 15 minutes, it has incredibly powerful effects. It starts to change your body very quickly, and you can overcome the limitations that keep you from being comfortable in that posture much more quickly if you have to stay in it for a long time. So both to attain and maintain difficult yoga postures, I began to develop some mechanical devices. This is back when I was like 12, 13, 14 years old. So you might wonder, well, you're talking out your hat here. Are there any other groups or schools that do similar practices? And the answer is yes. When I was like 22 years old, I met my first wife. And she was half Navajo Indian. And her grandma had taught her an art called Quidoshka. You can look all these things up on the internet. They're not secret. But they're secret in the sense that people are in denial about it. Like Tantra. Religious, spiritual type people deny Tantra because it involves sex. And also puritanical, conservative, emotionally inhibited, intellectually incapable people deny Shibari for the same reason. But it was used in ancient Zen schools. It was used in ancient martial arts training. In China, in Native American culture, it was used in warrior training. And there's a long history of these type of methods coming down that involved what's commonly called physical pain. But it's not really pain, it's simply intense sensation. And that can come internally or externally. It comes internally from maintaining a yoga position for a long time. Look at some of these yoga positions. They're a real stretch. Or it can come from outside in the form of physical stimulation by the teacher, the master, the dominant, or whatever you want to call it. So in this way, Shibari, I'm going to use Shibari as a collective term for all these techniques, even Iron Shirt, Qigong, and the Quidoshka, warrior training, and so on. I'm going to call these all under the umbrella of Shibari. And for me, of course, it brings up the association of Nārasingha. And I'll explain all of this in due course. Maybe not publicly. I may post some private videos for intimate students only. But anyway, somehow or other, it has become time now to reveal this secret hidden yoga. And what's the point of it? How does it work? by applying or experiencing extra intense sensations in the body, and then learning to adapt, to flow with, and to remove the obstacles, the psychological and physical obstacles to attaining them, then you gain a tremendous increase in internal energy flow. That's what Qigong is all about, internal energy flow. So by opening up the joints, by stretching, by pulling, traction, by maintaining these postures, asanas, for a long time, I'm talking 10, 15, 20 minutes, half an hour, or even more, one can develop a tremendous internal energy flow. And actually, what's actually happening is you're simply removing the blocks. Energy is already there, but it's stuck. It's stuck at the sex chakra, at the energy chakra, the dantian, at the moving chakra, the solar plexus. It's stuck at the heart chakra because you're clinging to positions of power and so on. You have to be able to let all that go. You're stuck at the throat chakra because you can't vocalize when you have an intense sensation. It's been inhibited out of us by school, by society, by parents. But when these inhibitions are removed, the energy can flow freely, and then there's so much more abundance of energy available for meditation, you see. So the whole thing always comes back to meditation. Now, I've taught one technique here, which has become very popular, which is Secret of the Golden Flower, or reversing the flow. Reversing the flow simply gets you into meditation, but the aim of meditation is attained when you gain control over the gate between the four states of consciousness: waking, dreaming, deep sleep, and enlightenment, or turiya, or nibbana, or samadhi, or whatever you want to call it. When you gain control over this four-way gate, symbolized in Om, A, U, Ng, and Anushwarga, the silent syllable, the fourth, Turiya, the fourth state of consciousness, which almost no one knows. But you can know it as light, consciousness, pure Brahman. And this is the actual aim of self-realization. And the reason people aren't reaching it is, well, one, they have misunderstandings and wrong views. But two, they have a lack of energy. And not they have a lack of energy, but their energy is inhibited. It's blocked in the different centers. So I developed this technique to unblock the energy. And it worked for me. It has worked over a whole lifetime. And I've gotten a lot of criticism from it, a lot of attacks because of it. People don't understand, they misunderstand, they deliberately misunderstand. And they don't ever get to take a look at the content, the real essence of my teaching, because they're so hung up on this idea, oh, he's doing sex, you know. Oh, he's doing Tantra. Oh, he's doing Shibari. Oh, he's doing Quidoshka. Oh, my God. Yeah. These are all taboos not in actual spiritual culture, but in modern neoliberal culture. And they have been misapplied to spiritual work because of the tremendous influence of materialistic society today. So that's it. That's all I'm going to say now. But there are going to be more videos in this series. Om Tat Sat. Om Harihi Om.